Oh, well, we're on live now. You know me, I'm bad at intro, so we'll just skip this part and we'll just go to the video.
All right.
Anyway,
Let's get at her.
This video is titled Rafael Correa on Venezuela, a song in preventing the total destruction of our homeland. Now, from what I know of Correa, if you want to prevent the destruction of your homeland, you should never have been elected. But
right.
let me share. Actually, hold on. I want to see if I can actually experiment with the other type of screen share, but maybe it works. Oh, hey, it works.
Mr. President, thanks so much for this opportunity to talk to you here in Caracas. It seems that you've come a longer.
Oh, by the way, they do this in Caracas, by the way.
Yeah. Blumenthal also has an interview with Maduro in Caracas as well. Most Western journalists don't have access to Venezuela, but they get access because they cuck for the dictatorship.
Yeah.
Way than I have to get here. You come all the way from Europe where you live now. Why did you think it was so important to come here to Venezuela at this time for this election?
Bueno, gracias por esta entrevista.
Oh, God, we have to read it. We have to read. All right, well, I guess I'll do this in the best Correa voice I can. Well, thanks for the interview, Chuck. Actually, I was in Mexico. I had to go to Mexico to participate in some meetings. Wait, you think that's the way it sounds like in English?
You gotta have a better accent.
What are you talking about? They ain't talking like this in Ecuador?
Well, thanks for this interview.
Yes,
actually, I was in Mexico, and I had to go to Mexico to participate in some meetings.
Mexico. Yeah, you have to do it like this.
I don't know. I wasn't even trying to do I was intentionally doing a Texas accent because I cannot do Mexican. I can do Eastern European. Because not really a challenge, though.
Realmente estaba en México. Tuve que ir a hacer unas reuniones o ir a participar a México en unas reuniones.
Alright, so I extended the trip a bit because I had to return to Belgium. I would have to quarantine.
Extendí un poco el viaje en México porque si regresaba a Bélgica tenía que hacer cuarentena y no podía salir nuevamente.
I have to be able to leave again, so I came to Mexico directly.
Entonces vine de México directamente. Pero si estaba en Bélgica, muy probablemente hubiera venido directamente.
You guys can read. I don't have to read this shit.
So, just looking why he went to Europe is because there's a warrant out for his arrest because he kidnapped his political opponent, Fernando Balda.
Huh. You know, you'd think if you were that much of a dictator, your first choice shouldn't it be Europe, but apparently Europe doesn't mind that you kidnap your opposition leader. Also, wait, if this guy is a criminal in his own country, that means the arrest was given under an administration who was his vice president.
It was a judge in Ecuador who issued the warrant for his arrest, and then Interpol rejected the warrant.
Why did Interpol reject the warrant? I'm just curious on that point.
They said it's obviously a political matter.
Okay.
Venezuela es sumamente importante y sus elecciones también.
Okay, seriously, Venezuela elections. You can't just do a freaking oxymoron like that. Like you have to be. You're in an interview. You can't just do oxymorons of Venezuela and elections. They don't have elections over there.
You don't get it. The sanctions from the United States uh destroyed the elections, bro.
Yes, they destroyed. Yes, the sanctions were the one that removed the opposition from the ballot.
Yeah.
You think if they were doing a coup, they would want to remove. They could just move Maduro from the ballot, but whatever.
porque hay una serie de mitos, de mentiras, de falsedades. Entonces, sí me gusta llevar ese testimonio a Europa, al mundo, de lo que está realmente pasando en Venezuela.
I mean, you talked about some of the lies that are being told about Venezuela, some of the
Bro, if you're talking about the lies on the Venezuela, you shouldn't be telling them to the grave, though. They know the lies. They've been the ones spreading the lies.
Yeah, for sure. They aren't the most sound, integrable journalism service out there on the internet. The other
deceptions that are
interesting
deployed in
thing
the
about
media.
Correa is under his presidency, Ecuador actually did well. Like I don't think he had a reason to arrest his political opponents. He was popular. So kind of like a Nixon type of thing with Watergate, spying and arresting. Like he didn't have a reason to. He had been reelected.
He's essentially the Nixon of Ecuador. I'm guessing that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
I mean, we just reported on the Wall Street Journal and US Congress basically fabricating comments by Diosdado Cabello, one of the most important political figures here, that he threatened to withhold food from Venezuelans.
Didn't they literally reject aid? Like, I think that's reporting.
Yeah, and the sanctions, even if they're sanctions of Iran, are not for humanitarian aid, medicine, or food.
Yeah. I think
And it's one of the things with Venezuela. I want to say Reese did a video of Venezuela kind of breaking it down.
yeah,
But
they give like
with
billions in aid, or not billions, maybe millions.
well, it's just the government kind of putting the blame on the United States for their own failures because the Panama government, in the case of Venezuela, denied that they had restricted aid into the country. It's just coming out of the Venezuela propaganda machine.
In the gray zone. Again, more of those lies pushed by about Venezuela. We hear so much about in the gray zone.
If they did not vote,
they're showing us by telling us the lies of Venezuela. God appreciate that.
it was a gigantic lie. What do you think the biggest lies about Venezuela are that you've had to confront, and why did you think it was so important to come here to observe this?
And why is your party no longer in charge of your home nation?
Election.
Es importante que haya observadores internacionales que den testimonio de que yo le diría las elecciones venezolanas son hasta aburridas de lo bien que pasan.
Well, they're rigged.
Yeah, it's like they're so boring. We already know the results, literally.
And you can see why this guy was a good politician, especially in Latin America. He's very charismatic with the way he speaks, his nonverbal communication. You can see why this guy was a very good politician and at the time probably really well liked in Ecuador.
Not so much anymore. The thing. Probably not well liked.
De lo tranquilas que son, de lo eficiente que es el método de votar. La gente...
Yeah. Well, it's pretty easy to vote when you get one option. Oh, you don't need more than 20 seconds. Oh, if it's a rigged election, they don't care. They don't really care about verification.
gente se demoraba 20 segundos en votar, lo cual es muy bueno en este contexto de pandemia, porque recuerde también que se ha realizado esta elección en una pandemia, sin combustible, con cortes de luz en algunos países, incluso un paro de transporte en algunos estados, paro de transporte en algunos estados. Entonces, es necesario que se diga al mundo.
I mean, yeah, the elections in just like in Syria, North Korea, I mean Eritrea, elections just like other countries. Venezuela, when we're less democratic than an absolute monarchy.
Que aquí hay elecciones como en cualquier otro país, las mismas elecciones que hace 5 años, cuando perdió el gobierno, y ahí sí fueron válidas. Ahora que sabía cierta oposición que iba a perder.
By the way, if you want to know about the 2018 Venezuelan election, turnout fell to about the highest estimates put it at 45%. Some estimates put it at low at like 17%. But there was a lot lower of a turnout compared to other elections in Venezuela. So there was like a clear drop. And I mean,
Yeah, Maduro arrested political opposition, like similar to what went on in Belarus, where they arrested the opposition. Like he arrested it, he removed one of the guys off the ballot. Like there was so much like shady shit in that 2018 Venezuela election.
and if you like
In
look at
addition to the night that it happened, like they paused the voting and then started it again a certain period later. I don't remember if it's 14 or 12 hours later. They started counting the votes again.
and also I believe it was like Maduro actually got less raw votes in that election than he did in the previous election. So that should tell you just how much of a voter turnout drop there was.
Quisieron boicotearlas, ahora ya no son válidas. Entonces basta de esa doble moral. Entonces, por eso la importancia de presenciar, de observar.
Well, most international observers are not really the most reliable source. It's usually, if they're from America, it's either someone like the Gray Zone or someone from the Carter Center, and then probably be like Russia, China, Sudan, maybe like a socialist from Europe. Like those are usually the election observers, the international election observers. People who are pretty pro Maduro and already have the bias.
Esta elección y realmente han tenido una organización que rara vez se puede ver, ¿no? Muy bien organizada. Me hiciste otra pregunta. You have another question, a second question.
Yeah, my other question was just about the lies that we have to constantly confront in our mainstream media about Venezuela.
I'm confronting lies on Venezuela right now. I mean, I can tell you what those lies are. You've already said them. You can tell me what the lies are. You are telling me what the lies are.
Esto es que las amenaza, pero no hay nada de eso. Ustedes pueden preguntarle a la gente. Lo que pasa es que, además, reflexionen una cosa, ¿no? Una situación es que no permitan inscribir a alguien y ese alguien o esas personas, si es un grupo de personas, llamen a boicotear las elecciones porque no les permitieron participar, no tienen oportunidad de ganar. Pero otra cosa es que no quieran participar y llamen a boicotear y digan.
He's so dishonest when he says that. It's like, yeah, they didn't have the chance to participate. The opposition leaders were being arrested during the election. So I think it's
and threatened. Like the second leading person in charge of the person who polled well throughout the process. Like his head of security got beaten up one day and got put in intensive care.
Yeah.
Like the polling, like the Falcon, who was the opposition, who's also a socialist, like he was up in all but 3 polls in the election period. But yet he got his clock cleaned in the election.
Hubo poca participación es porque la gente nos apoyó. Si tienen tanto apoyo, participen y ganen. No tiene sentido, están mintiendo, ¿ya?
Well, again, it's hard to get involved and win when when most of the Venezuelan government is against you, or it's like when the entire election committee has been against you consistently.
Well, the other thing too, going back to the selection, there was vote buying. So like promising to vote for a candidate and getting compensation for that vote. And there were some allegations of it actually bribing supporters with food, like withholding food unless they vote for you.
Entonces, en realidad, la cierta parte de la oposición llamó a boicotear las elecciones, no porque no estaban bien organizadas, no porque había amenazas, no porque había fraude, no porque hubo impedimentos para participar. Otra gran parte de la oposición sí participó, es sencillamente porque sabían que iban a ser derrotados.
What does he mean a large percentage of the opposition participated? I don't know. I have no. We're dealing with bullshit on a scale we have never seen before.
Like, how would they? All the polls pointed towards the opposition winning. How did they know they were going to be defeated if it wasn't rigged?
Yeah.
Y ya basta, eso no es democrático. Bueno, Venezuela.
By the way, if you want to go look at objective measures about democracy in Venezuela, Democracy Index does record democracies of pretty much every country. I mean, they rank America as a flawed democracy, so they're not exactly this pro-US, pro-Western site. And they rank Venezuela as authoritarian. Like, only country that beats it is Cuba in the region. So, yeah, something tells me that the elections are probably not democratic. We have objective measurements that show it's not.
Es un caso extremo, ¿no? Han llegado a la barbaridad de bloquear a Venezuela. Con eso sufre el pueblo venezolano. A la ridiculez. Eso nunca se ha visto. De reconocer un gobierno, un presidente autoproclamado en un parque que sacó 60.000 votos para la asamblea y que no tiene ningún poder real. Porque incluso así no quieran.
Again, they did have legitimacy. The issue is that Maduro filled the Supreme Court with his cronies, and so they blocked the impeachment because corruption's very high in Venezuela. It's like, by most accounts, this should be the legit. Well, by now he shouldn't. He wouldn't be the president because there would have been an election already, and I don't know if he would have participated or not, but he probably wouldn't be the president right now. If Maduro had stepped down, it probably would be someone in the same party of his, but it might even be him.
Yeah, and I think he's referring to Juan Guaido.
Yeah.
He's talking about the person in the park who declared himself leader of Venezuela, who's recognized by more countries than Maduro is as the leader of Venezuela.
Yeah.
And that's who he's referring to. He's not referring to, like, in the election where Henry Falcone took second.
Legitimar a Nicolás Maduro, es evidente que él es el que tiene el poder. Entonces, si quieren ayudar al pueblo venezolano realmente, tienen que tener como interlocutor a la persona que maneja el poder, no a un payaso que se proclamó en un parque. Entonces, son extremos que no se han visto.
Wait, Guaido had most polls show Guaido had support of 80 to 90% of the people on his side. Like, the only reason he's not as popular as he is as they used to be was because he failed to remove Maduro. Which, I mean, it's not really his fault because removing Maduro would be a challenging feat for pretty much anyone in this situation. Like, again...
But the thing about Guaido is the National Assembly, which would be kind of like the Senate or the House in the United States, is the one that declared Guaido the leader.
But here's the thing, it's like, don't think anyone would want, like, Guaido didn't. In reality, no one would actually want the job that Guaido has because he's under constant threat. He's like, no one would. People act like Guaido is this power hungry person. Like, he's not. He doesn't have a luxurious job. He's constantly on the run. It's like, I wouldn't want to be in that position. It's like, do they just think that Guaido is just taking this up because he believes he's going to be wealthy off this? I don't. He probably isn't, because if he wanted to get wealthy, he could have just showed for the government.
Well, it depends. Guaido's always been in opposition to kind of the Maduro government. And I want to say that this venture has been pretty good, but for him financially. But his opposition, he's a little bit more of still kind of a socialist, but wants Venezuela to get back to where it was before Chavez, being kind of a power in the region.
El resto sí es muy similar, pero cuidado, son extremos gravísimos. Por ejemplo, Venezuela tenía más de 50.000 millones de dólares de ingresos petroleros. Este año no va a llegar a 500. La centésima parte.
Okay, this is another problem with the Venezuela thing. It's that it has declining oil prices, but the oil prices were going to decline either way. It's like there's nothing they could have done because the forces were external. Like, the oil prices were going to be low because Russia and Saudi Arabia are still going to mass produce oil. U.S. is still going to try to adopt energy independence.
And Venezuela's oil isn't as clean as the Middle East oil as well. I think that has to be brought up. It costs them more to refine it to the level the Middle East can by almost just pumping it out of the ground. Like, the Middle East oil is a very high grade, and Venezuela's is a lot lower grade of oil, even though they have a lot of it.
Yeah, and again, that makes no sense. If this is about the oil, it's like it's a pretty expensive thing just to do for oil.
Well, Venezuela's problem with oil was Chavez. He basically, anybody who could run the oil refineries, he kicked them out of the country and gave it to his friends, and they ran it into the ground. So in order for them to produce oil at least a level, they'd have to find somewhere to refine it, first of all, because the refinery is so gummed up that they would have to build another one rather than being able to fix the old one. And then, they don't have anybody qualified to run it.
Centésima parte, ¿sabes lo que eso significa? Más aún, el petróleo era 90% y más de las divisas.
Again, he just mentioned that 90% of oil making up Venezuela's export. This just glosses over. That might have something to do with your problems, especially since you export a lot to America, and America has been adopting increasingly a policy of energy independence. It's like, which, I mean, what, are you against America adopting energy independence? Do they have to buy oil from Venezuela? Because is it our job to prop up Maduro now?
Well, they have to send it to the United States to refine it, because their oil they naturally produce is a little bit worthless. So they have to bring it to the United States to refine it. So it's kind of a burden on us if we don't make back the money, which sending it to the United States to refine it is going to increase the price, which makes them non-competitive on the global market.
Yeah, and when Chavez tried to do that whole OCED thing where they all like produced at high levels, Saudi Arabia just broke that, and you don't hear that whole OCED oil price control attempt affected whole countries the hardest because they couldn't afford oil as much, and so there were shortages of oil in those countries. But no, as long as Venezuela and like Saudi Arabia are rich, who cares about whole countries?
Yeah, and it's really just the government's fault. It's the government of Venezuela's fault, because they could have South America. They're an oil producer. South America could be a big market because it'd be cheaper to transport it there, but they can't produce it at a low enough price to make a profit it's cheaper to ship it from somewhere else, either the United States or from the Gulf states to South America because of their inability to get their costs down.
And it's also the problem that you can't. That's that they should have diversified their economy when it looked like oil prices weren't going to be on the rise forever. Like that was something they should have done in like 2004. Was diversify the economy, make it more of a free market system like Norway, and so then you could actually have a successful country. But instead, Chavez and Maduro decided not to do that and instead nationalize even more private industry.
Yeah, nationalization wasn't as bad as kicking out all the qualified workforce. Like nationalization on its head, can work. But if you take all the engineers out, all the people, all the operators out, how are you going to run then that refinery? You can't.
Venezolana. Entonces, realmente que pueda sobrevivir Venezuela es poco menos que un milagro.
I doubt that to the Venezuelan people that's a miracle. I mean, like, here's the thing: when you're that poor, you are not going to support the government under any circumstance because, surprisingly, Grey Zone, the government's main goal, at least it shouldn't be, just counter the U.S. It should act in its own interest. And sometimes working with the U.S. is actually within its interest.
Yeah, but that would be imperialism.
Oh, yes. Like, no, you have to be poor. You may be poor, but it's to hurt America and to expand Chinese hegemony. So I guess you're technically starving for imperialism, but it's not American imperialism.
Y hay una gran hipocresía cuando pseudo.
I wonder which countries he's going to mention for like being on the same level of Venezuela, because there's only one Western-backed government that you could argue has a similarity to Venezuela, and that's Yemen. But Yemen is also going through a massive civil war, so they kind of have an excuse.
Los analistas se ponen a hablar de la situación de Venezuela, la política económica, la migración, y no dicen que está bloqueada, que está en una economía de guerra. Es como que si yo tiro una bomba atómica en Chile y al día siguiente diga fracasó el neoliberalismo.
Except
it gets back to their logic of sanctions. Sanctions are as deadly as bombs. But sanctions are a long-term plan to result in change.
Also, let's think about something funny. America dropped 2 nukes on Japan, and it's one of the most prosperous nations around because they adopted a more liberal system. So, his own analogy failed.
Just using America as a scapegoat for all their problems. Same thing the government does.
Yeah, because when your government's under a shitty program, it has to find its scapegoat. Because, like, when you actually look at, like, at least the trade policies of Chavez, he wasn't really that anti-American when you actually look, because he sold oil to America, a lot of oil to America, because, makes money to sell to the big power. And realistically, most of his attacks on America was mostly just rhetoric.
Yeah, he was a strong man, just trying to give strong rhetoric.
O sea, basta tanta hipocresía. Entonces, esos extremos no se ha llegado en otros países salvo Cuba, pero el resto de tácticas son muy similares. Hay intervenciones más sutiles de parte de Estados Unidos, financia la oposición con el National Endowment for Democracy, el brazo financiero de la CIA, financia supuestas...
Oh, he's going after the NGOs.
And NED, their favorite government conspiracy agency, NED funds everything because the CIA isn't good enough anymore.
Oh, I see. They're going after NGOs. So does the right-wing populace. The horseshoes coming together. Again.
ONGs, organizaciones no gubernamentales, que en verdad son organizaciones políticas de la oposición para permanentemente tratar de dañar a nuestros gobiernos. pero tal vez el instrumento más poderoso.
Oh, I actually don't think the interviewer on this thing is actually Blumenthal. I think it's Knowlton, so I might have gotten the title wrong.
It is Blumenthal.
Oh, okay.
So, yep, it is Blumenthal. It's kind of weird. They're kind of in a split screen, kind of
I
voice
can't-
call away from each
yeah.
other.
Well, I can't tell the difference between Blumenthal and Knowlton. I'm guessing because
They look like Beavis and Butthead.
yeah, honestly, they could be this. Honestly, I'm still not convinced they're not the same person.
Yeah, different ways the way they speak. Yeah, but definitely they have the same rhetoric and they approach arguments in the same way.
De desestabilización que tienen son los medios de comunicación. Medios de comunicación nacionales e internacionales que permanentemente mienten, distorsionan, engañan a la gente.
So,
hear so much about-
interesting he brings up the media because that was one of the things during, like, he's not somebody who was for free speech. There's a story of Korea, somebody flipped him off at a rally, and that person got arrested and had to do community service afterward for simply flipping him off. So it's no surprise he's coming against the media.
Oh yeah, he hates. I guess he does seem like a guy who would just hate criticism.
About human rights abuses in Venezuela, about extrajudicial assassinations overseen by Maduro, all of these.
By the way, Venezuela has the highest rate of death by security forces. So, I mean,
That's actually shocking because there's a lot of governments out there that are pretty bad. And
Yeah.
for Venezuela to have the highest, that's actually really shocking.
Basically rumors that were
I don't think it includes like some of the people who died in Syria because I mean, okay, so maybe Assad is worse than Maduro, but is that really saying anything?
Yeah, maybe we don't get accurate numbers out of Russia, North Korea, and China either.
filtered by the opposition into Michelle Bachelet's UN report that repeated constantly. But we don't hear much. Our viewers in the United States don't hear very much from mainstream media about what's been happening in Ecuador for the past year or so.
I mean,
Because we don't care.
yeah, and also not as bad as Venezuela.
And Ecuador has kind of always been a little bit of like a neutral place. It's one of the reasons why Assange ran there. It's because it's kind of a neutral country.
I wonder what he's going to bring up about Ecuador.
All of the repression, the jailing of Jorge Glass, the terrorism charges against Ricardo Patino, who was linked somehow to Olabini from Sweden, who was jailed without seeing a judge, and your own targeting, your disqualification. Maybe you can address.
I mean, they saw that he was he tried to kidnap a member of opposition. That doesn't seem like selective targeting as much as.
Well, he's also accused of bribery as well.
Yeah.
Like corruption, bribery, kidnapping of opposition.
I get it. He's being targeted because he's a criminal.
And rather than like face the jury, clear your innocence, he ran to Belgium.
Yeah. No, I just got this. He's running from. He's being targeted clearly because think about it. Police target criminals. He's a criminal. He's being targeted.
The repression and explain to our viewers what has been happening in Ecuador since Lenin Moreno came into office.
Primero, enfatizar la doble moral que acabas de mencionar.
By the way, Moreno was his vice president. So, it's kind of hilarious just how much Moreno turned out not to be this. I won't say this. Well, they can't say that on stream, so we'll just
Mencionar, ¿no? En Colombia se matan todos los días líderes sociales y ya ni siquiera es noticia. En cambio acá.
But that's probably because those social leaders aren't being killed by the government in Colombia. They're probably being killed by someone else. Mostly those left-wing and far-right paramilitary forces. But they're being killed in Colombia, so it must be the government.
Yeah, it must be. It's all a conspiracy. So Moreno's also been there have been allegations for corruption with Moreno as well. And he also was a nominee for a Nobel Peace Prize. Because he got shot shot during a robbery attempt, and now he's in a wheelchair.
Oh.
Si a Leopoldo López se lo encarcela por promover las guarimbas que mataron más de 40 personas, quemaban vivos a gente que creían chavistas por tener la piel oscura, entonces es un escándalo mundial. Entonces hay una gran doble moral.
Also, he's doing that whole thing about, the natives support Maduro. Yet, I've talked about this a lot. That is verifiably false. It's like Mezquito areas don't vote more socialist than any other areas. Like, in fact, sometimes it's been the contrary, especially in the northwest of Venezuela. There's a lot of natives there, and in the northwest is one of the most anti-Salvista place in the region. So this is a lie that they spout that the natives support Salvism. They really don't.
No, they're just like anybody else. They'll vote for whoever they believe is in their best interest.
Yeah, well, also the thing with Venezuela is that there's not really anyone that's a pure native. It's like 2% of the population. You're either white or Mezquito. And they make up like 92% of the population, so.
Algo similar con Ecuador, ¿no? Ha habido grandes represiones en los últimos meses en la región, en Colombia, en Ecuador. 11 muertos, 1.300 heridos, 1.200 detenidos en octubre del 2019. En Chile, y centenas de personas que perdieron sus ojos por las balas de goma.
Yeah, but surely that's not actually killing them. That's just like that's far less than what they're doing in Venezuela. Because Chile does actually have some standards because it is the most democratic country in the region. Funny how the effects of neoliberalism is that you become one of the most democratic and prosperous countries in the world. And Chile's also not really fighting any wars for America. They're pretty independent, so why are they opposed to neoliberalism again? Oh yeah,
because it takes away from socialism.
Yeah, and
but that was one of the things with Moreno is Moreno switched over to a more neoliberal foreign policy and domestic policy away from the legacy of Correa.
Y prácticamente no pasa nada. Ahí no hay problema. Pero si en Venezuela se mete preso un opositor fascista que impulsó a la gente a la violencia.
Yeah. Okay. Another famous lie that Venezuelan opposition are all fascists.
Well, here's the thing, like he just labels them as a fascist, but he's saying like opposition leaders are in prison. Like, yeah, that happened. Like, you arrest opposition, call them fascists, be like, oh, well, you drove people to violence, caused deaths. Like, he's making the case like, oh, Venezuela elections weren't really fair because, the opposition was bad, so we had to throw them in prison.
Y produjo decenas de muertes, entonces es atentado a derechos humanos. Hay una gran hipocresía. Y tú lo has dicho, ni siquiera se sabe en Ecuador lo que está pasando. Por ejemplo, para estas elecciones, 7 de febrero tenemos elecciones. Nuestro binomio es el que encabeza todas las encuestas. A mí no me permitieron participar con trampa. Se le inscribió el 18 de septiembre.
Well, wait, you're not allowed, probably because you got arrested and you fled the country. Like, I think that's a legitimate reason not to let you participate. Probably have to be in the country to participate.
You know what's funny? I don't know when this video was posted, but the person who won the Ecuadorian
Oh yeah, I
elections,
know. He's like even more
he's a
neoliberal than
conservative. Yeah, he's a conservative.
yeah.
Reducing taxes and a free market activist. Like, so what he's saying, oh, well, our party was popular. People actually went the opposite direction versus the direction that Correa was.
Yeah.
And some of that maybe due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but yeah, the person who was elected is way more right wing than Correa was.
Han generado una serie de incidentes que todavía hoy la inscripción no está en firme. Es decir, tenemos el riesgo de no poder participar. Han hecho lo imposible para no permitirnos participar. 2 meses y medio después de la inscripción. Si eso pasaba en Venezuela, ¿sabes cuáles hubieran sido los titulares de los medios de comunicación? La noticia que hubiese dado la vuelta.
By the way, they were allowed to participate in the elections. His party still held the presidency. They still hold a lot of seats in the parliament. It's like saying they're being oppressed is sort of a joke, essentially, because again, they just don't want to accept the fact that they lost the presidential election.
Yeah, he doesn't want to accept the fact too that he's no longer in power.
Oh, jeez, I'm getting serious deja vu. I've seen this before. Can't put my finger on it. Something to do with a guy I think was like Donald Trump or something like that. I don't know.
Al mundo, es una gran hipocresía. En Ecuador se ha roto permanentemente el Estado de Derecho, se apoderaron del Estado con una consulta absolutamente fraudulenta, sin control constitucional, manipulada, y no contentos con eso.
Maybe we should get a second source on this. Maybe we should just take a look at some pretty objective measurements from our friends at Democracy Index. Let's see if I can. So anyway, I don't know how accurate this will be because this is.
You know what? It sounds like Venezuela to me. He's describing Venezuela.
Look, yeah, except he's calling it Ecuador.
The modern government in Ecuador, but he's really describing the current government in Venezuela.
Oh yeah, let's see. Let's look at what happened since Lenin Moreno took power. Oh, turns out Ecuador went from being a hybrid regime to a flawed democracy. Interesting. Very interesting. Seems like it got more democratic once you left.
Eso, se apropiaban de esa forma de un consejo que nombraba a todas las autoridades de control. Pero no contento con eso, el presidente designado es otra función del Estado. Pero por esa consulta, el presidente de la República pudo designar directamente a los miembros de ese consejo transitorio. El presidente de ese consejo se volvió loco. Se declaró emperador, se declaró que sus decisiones estaban sobre la Constitución. Era un tipo de 86 años, ya falleció.
I don't know anything about a guy declaring himself Emperor of Ecuador.
No, there's no such thing because, I mean, Moreno, if he wanted to stay in power, would have stayed in power, but he's leaving power and Lasso's coming into power.
Yeah. Correa still seizing at night at that fact that he used to be in charge and now Lasso's in command.
Y en lugar de
Now
mandarlo
he
al
has to live in Belgium and eat
Yeah.
waffles.
Now that's punishment enough, having to live in Belgium. Whoa, you go to Wallonia, you won't know what language to speak over there. Is this
Yeah.
German? Is this Dutch? Is this French? I don't know.
Maybe he lives in the Sudetenland. I think that's Belgium, or it might be the Netherlands. Geography's a little bit off.
Sudetenland. I'm trying to think. I know. What the Sudetenland? That's Czechoslovak. That's the Czech Republic. I think they're getting a little confused. The Sudetenland was the German areas in the Czech Republic. It was like Czechoslovakia when Hitler annexed it.
Well, the area I was referring to is when they would go around in Belgium.
Oh, I know
to
what
go around.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Lo aplaudieron. Entre otras cosas, destituyó a la Corte Constitucional, que no puede ser destituida. Declaró 6 meses de vacancia constitucional. Todo eso hemos vivido. Además de la persecución política, el caso de Brecht, todo el mundo lo conoce. El vicepresidente lleva más de 3 años preso, sin un centavo mal habido, no le han descubierto nada, condenado con un código derogado para ponerle más años de prisión, impedirle que regrese a la vicepresidencia, y Odebrecht nunca fue acusado.
Well, again, he never mentioned what crime he was actually accused of committed of. I don't know what crime he was committed of, but I mean, again, though, he's complaining about Marino. Marino's not even going to be in charge anymore for like a few. Like, I think he has a few days left in Powell. And then we have Lasso.
So, just looking this up, $13.5 million in bribes for this Obrecht scandal.
Yeah, that probably does get you arrested.
For 6 years, yeah. But hey, don't ever look it up. Just take their word for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's only $13 million. Oh, this guy probably took like $30 million. Like, we're thinking, you gotta get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
Pero te imaginas, Odebrecht, la empresa corrupta, corruptora, nunca fue acusada. Es claro el pacto con Odebrecht. Ustedes acusen a tales objetivos políticos que ustedes no le hicieron nada. Yo tengo 36 procesos penales, 36. Ni Chapo Guzmán, ni...
Well, Al Capone, again, why is he mentioning Al Capone? That doesn't even have anything to do with it. Al Capone was a gangster in the 1920s voiding prohibition. The reason why he only had the IRS trial was because they couldn't prove anything else he did. It's like,
So, but this scandal is actually really huge. It's a lot of countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. $780 million in bribes to government officials. Like just a massive thing. But he's like, oh, well, they don't have as many trials. There were tons of trials with this scandal.
yeah, and also, again, I think the reason why Pinochet never got a trial was, one, Pinochet stepped down voluntarily, so kind of made it less likely. And also, he put some things in the Constitution that, I mean, he mentioned, and also, when they finally did arrest him, when he was about to await trial, he kept getting sick and so couldn't go to his trial, and then he died. It's like, I think, and I'm no legal expert, but I think once you die, you don't have to show up to court anymore. Again, no legal expert. But
Yeah.
I think when you die, you can't be found guilty.
I think I agree. I concur. That's the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really plea when you're dead. It's like, how do you plea? Your Honor, you're talking to a corpse. He still needs to go for trial like everyone else. The trial.
I mean,
Your
you
Honor,
could
this man's
backdate
starting to smell.
The trial, but there's still like you can't get a conviction with the dead person.
Ni Pinochet ni Al Capone juntos han tenido...
Also, I don't know who Chapo Guzman is. I'm just going to briefly look him up. See what he did. Chapo. Okay, he's some Mexican drug lord. Again, probably seems like...
El Chapo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Again,
he's
they probably...
from the Sinaloa cartel.
Probably why he never got as many criminal proceedings is, again, like Capone. You gotta get him on the things that stick.
Well, they did arrest El Chapo once, and then the cartel broke him out of prison and killed anybody who stood in their way.
Like, the thing with that, though, is that you also have to make sure, because some of them are impossible to prove, like, again, with Capone. That's why they got him on tax evasion. Like, you gotta get these things on the. You gotta get this things
Yeah.
on these guys that you can prove first, and then get them on other things if you can prove it while they're in jail. Like,
Yeah. And
this
just,
guy don't know anything about. This guy led a country for years, doesn't know that fact.
well, you look at Capone. Capone was always followed and always in legal trouble. So was El Chapo. Chapo got arrested multiple times. Like, yeah, Pinochet probably because he didn't step down. But yeah, the other two,
Also,
like, they were definitely near getting convictions, but they had other ways of getting out of them.
Tanto proceso. Para impedirme participar, porque me impidieron ser candidata a la presidencia, pero podía.
probably because you're in Belgium. Again, can't really run for the president of Ecuador when you live in Belgium.
Oh, yeah, and because of his crimes of corruption.
Yeah. Like, actually, you probably don't even probably would have lost if you were on the ballot. And they, from I know, people don't like corrupt politicians.
Ser candidata a la vicepresidencia. Para impedirme participar como vicepresidente, en 17 días sacaron una sentencia. Nunca antes ha habido tanta rapidez para inhabilitarme como candidata. Entonces, todo.
Well, they probably were somewhat politically motivated, but does that really change the fact that you're still a criminal? Like, they probably sped it up, but probably you're still a criminal, dude.
Enriching yourself in public office, that's not progressive at all.
Yeah.
They rail upon our politicians being bought and lied for, and this was a person who was bought. And yet they support him because he's anti-America.
Yeah.
Todo eso hemos tenido que enfrentar, además de grandes persecuciones. La expresidenta de la Asamblea Nacional la acusaron de instigar las protestas de octubre, tuvo que asilarse en México. El día en que partía a México, metieron preso a su padre acusándole de testaferro, escándalo en todos los medios, ya se encontraron los millones de Gabriela Rivadeneira. Un año después, lo sobreseen, no sacan media noticia. Aquí está Fernando Alvarado, le metieron un juicio por peculado por un contrato de $12,000. 8 meses de $1,500 que se le pagaba a un periodista, ¿no? Por eso, él que manejó $600 millones, lo acusan de peculado, además que no tiene nada que ver con ese contrato. Les ganó el juicio, es tan absurdo que les ganó el juicio. Lo siguen teniendo entre los más buscados. Sigue el aviso en los aeropuertos para que lo detengan, o sea, se trata de humillar, realmente perseguir a la gente. ¿Tú has dado otro ejemplo?
Did you just say that it's about persecuting people because that's what you're supposed to do as a persecutor, man? Again, you persecute people.
Yeah, but he's mentioning some of the things, like you could just turn this around and say, well, Venezuela. So the next person he brought up is a Swedish activist, an internet activist who escaped to Ecuador due to his association with Julian Assange, which I imagine we'll see Assange probably brought up here in a bit.
Oh, yeah. Title.
Ejemplo, Olavini. Olavini es una historia bien larga. En principio, a nuestro ex canciller, Ricardo Patiño, se le acusó de tener relación con 2 hackers rusos y haber estado espiando al gobierno. Le sacaron orden de prisión por una conferencia que dio, ¿no? Por un speech a Ricardo. Pero lo acusaron de espionaje con 2 hackers rusos. Resulta que los 2 hackers rusos no eran 2, sino 1, y era sueco, Olavini, y que no conoce a Ricardo Patiño. Pero ese fue el escándalo, eso lo dijeron públicamente, que era Ricardo Patiño, ¿no? Y por último, metieron preso a Olavini, tiene más de un año de un proceso penal absurdo y no encuentran absolutamente nada. La otra vez dijeron que habían descifrado los códigos, las claves de...
Yeah, this guy definitely seems like a good politician. He's very good at the whataboutism. To deflect off your corruption. It's like, I can just see this guy representing me in court. Yes, Your Honor, I might have killed this guy, but what about the prosecutor? Look at his history.
Yeah, and he's definitely like not addressing like any of the questions directly. It's just like, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? Well, let me tell you this story all about this guy and this guy. And it's like just a bunch of mumbled word salad when he could just answer the question directly.
Especially since this is a gray zone, they're not going to push back on you.
Even though they have a show called Pushback. They
Yeah.
don't push back unless it's against America.
El teléfono y que así va a saber todo. Eso fue hace como 6 meses. Entonces estamos esperando que se sepa todo. Yo no conozco a Lavín por si acaso, pero ha habido total atropello de los derechos humanos de Lavín, un extranjero. Pero como es en Ecuador, gobierno de derecha, vasallo de los Estados Unidos, seguramente ni los estadounidenses conocen eso, ¿no? Entonces ves la doble moral que existe, ¿no? En Venezuela cualquier cosa es escándalo y lo que está pasando.
Well, I mean, which one looks like the bigger threat to you? I mean, the one where poverty is at 87% as of 2017, or the one where poverty is not at 87%? You know, the one with the highest corruption index score in South America, or the one that's not the most corrupt nation in South America. You can choose. Any choice is yours. And why people care more about Venezuela and Ecuador. Larger country too, but you know.
En otros países de la región, donde se mata, se reprime, hay persecución política, después de décadas se vuelve a dar asilo político, reconociendo que hay perseguidos políticos, hay rompimiento constitucional, ni siquiera salen las noticias.
Do you think it's strange that Mike Pompeo has visited Ecuador twice in recent months, that he's showing so much interest in Ecuador?
Well, it is a nation in South America. I don't know if you know this. It's on South America, North America, roughly the same. They're on the same landmass, only divided by the Panama Canal. They do have,
and it's a strategic point, and we've had talks about military operations in the Galapagos Islands. Like, yeah, that's the reason for it. But let's see what his reasoning is, because I imagine it's be like, oh, America bad. I'm good.
I don't think this is anything new or recent. I think that's always been somewhat of a case.
Yeah, ever since Correa left office, it's been the case.
Usual?
Por supuesto, o sea, no es extraño, ¿no? Ratifica lo evidente, que el gobierno de Ecuador, ¿no?, se ha sometido totalmente a los intereses de Estados Unidos, sobre todo para tratar de perseguir a los líderes progresistas.
Well, here's the main question about Ecuador, though. Even if they do all being more pro-American, if the people aren't suffering, and it actually causes a higher standard of living as the result of it, is that negative that the president of Ecuador has chosen to put Ecuador's interest over Alba's interest?
Yeah, he's just got to do the best. What's in the best interest of the people?
Yeah. I mean, sorry, but not every whole country is willing to go fight the U.S. on everything. Some of them are going to be more submissive to foreign. This is the same thing with China.
Foreign powers like China's a good one, because even some of their work in Africa, it's like these are poor developing countries. They may not agree with kind of the politics in China, but we got to do what's in the best interest of our country, and China's offering money. And we'll take that money to try to improve our country.
See, that's the thing with Africa. It's all just a war of investments. Whoever can invest more can ultimately just flip it. Like, if you invested more in, like, Tanzania than China does, you basically just change their policies overnight. But
yeah, and it'd also be, in a lot of ways, in a lot of countries, setting your money on fire as well.
Yeah.
Nacionales y tratar de atentar contra la estabilidad de Venezuela. Es evidente aquello.
The left is now experiencing a resurgence across Latin America, and
the thing is,
it's not. Like, I think that's a lie. You could say Bolivia, maybe Venezuela.
But they've always been like that.
Brazil's went right wing.
Yeah. Brazil.
Argentina's going to go right wing unless they fix their economy.
Yeah, Uruguay went right wing. The only nation where they could go left wing is Peru, and that's not because they actually like the left wing go, just because freaking the right was so fractured. They ended up getting the daughter of the dictator. Whoops, guys, small mistake. Looks like it's now either the communist or the dictator. Choose one. Not an enviable situation the people of Peru are in.
Yeah, but one election away, like I think with the COVID pandemic, lockdowns, people dying, and even like some of like the medical care. So like Moreno, he got treated, I think, in Spain, like abroad, even though a lot of the countries in Latin America do have universal health care. It's not the highest quality.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there is some wanting of like a freer market, develop South America, ways Africa is developing in some parts, like finally developing the nation and doing that a more neoliberal, which would be right wing from their previous socialist governments.
I mean, yeah, like Chile's the most prosperous country in that region, so it probably is.
Well,
To them,
Brazil
really,
is. Brazil's up there as far as
something like
economics.
look at like the Human Development Index. Chile's the number one.
Yeah, but as far as like economic, Brazil's a tough one to top. I think Brazil's top 10 in the world in the economy.
Well, I mean, prosperous not just economically big, because also per capita, I think it's smaller than Chile's too. But
Ecuador is next in line. You have an election coming up in Ecuador.
they lost.
Do you think it's possible to achieve a victory there under
Nope.
the current conditions with so much repression and suppression of political opposition
Dude, you lost. Stop coping.
in your country?
Encuestas nos ponen como ganadores incluso de una sola vuelta. Pero sobre todo con la experiencia que tuvieron en Bolivia, donde fueron arrasados, están dispuestos a hacer todo para impedir nuestra victoria. Entonces, somos optimistas, pero jamás triunfalistas, y esperamos cualquier cosa. ¿Qué significa eso? Todavía pueden eliminar el binomio. Yo creo que eso ya sería suicida, pero pueden atrasar.
They didn't eliminate your ticket and you lost. Lost to Lasso. Enjoy the new conservatives guy.
Las elecciones con el argumento de la pandemia. Pueden ilegalmente incluirnos otros candidatos, ¿no? No van a hacer que nos ganen sus candidatos. Por el contrario, los destrozan a sus candidatos, se fragmentan más. Pero le quitan a todo un poco, a todos los candidatos un poco, y alejan la probabilidad de ganar en una sola vuelta. Entonces están realmente desesperados, son capaces de cualquier cosa, porque para ellos lo peor es que nosotros ganemos, porque saben que tendrán que responder ante la justicia. No somos gente vengativa, pero hay que hacer justicia, sin odio, pero con memoria. Y obviamente el principal desafío es recuperar el país que está destrozado, vive su peor crisis económica de la historia, Ecuador, por el mal manejo de la pandemia y de la economía. Entonces,
oh yeah, that's why they elected neoliberals, because you and your party has practically left them in a situation that made it so that they couldn't handle the pandemic well.
Well, yeah, I want to say like he brought Ecuador up from where it was, but then they got somebody else behind him to take it even higher. So I still think you should give like him some credit for bringing them up, but they got taken into the future by the next generation to leadership. Like he's not as bad as like a Chavez or Maduro in that aspect.
Yeah.
están dispuestos a todo. Yo sí le pido al mundo estar muy atentos sobre lo que pasa en Ecuador en estas elecciones.
I know that you read my investigation at the Gray Zone on UC.
It's not an investigation just because a KGB agent handed you the paper of what to say.
Well, yeah, investigations on the Gray Zone. You know, if you go to the Gray Zone, you start going on one of their articles and you start looking at sources, a lot of times they source themselves. So like there will be a source. Oh, we said this in this article, and you go to that article, and okay, they said it here, and then you click on a source, it goes to another gray zone article,
Oh, it's
and
actually.
you go all the way down that rabbit hole. They just keep citing themselves as
Well,
their
do they
primary
have
source.
like maybe like cycles of like you eventually get to the end and it's just the article you went to?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it depends on how recent the article is, but either the sources could be some opposition leader. It could be like if it's Syria, the source eventually goes back to Assad or RT Russian Today. Like that's where the source, but they quote themselves and they cite themselves so much in their articles that is incredibly difficult to find where they're getting all their information from because they keep citing themselves in the articles.
The gray zone is the equivalent of the meme where it's just like source, I made it up.
Yeah.
Global, which was an apparent CIA contractor, hired
CIA.
Apparent CIA contractor. Because everybody works for the CIA.
Yeah, it's funny.
You can't disagree with the gray zone unless you're working for the CIA.
Yeah, it's funny how many CIA agents they think are being hired in this. Well, hold on, let's.
Well,
Google.
the CIA has 25,000 employees, and most of them are nerds working in office reviewing data because that's where the battles are fought now for the CIA. It's on the information front. They're not going out overthrowing governments. They're not doing this. They're a bunch of nerds looking at data and then giving this data to somebody else, whether that's a potential contractor, whether it's the United States government. But that's what the CIA is kind of doing now is they're just reviewing all this information, trying to find fact from fiction, and going that.
CIA could actually overthrow these. If the CIA is capable of all what they claim they're doing, that's pretty impressive for an organization with only $80 billion in revenue or funding or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not top funded. Like, yeah, it's just a boogeyman.
Yeah, especially it assumes the US government is good at stuff.
Because nobody even just randomly you go up to a random person on the street, nobody trusts the CIA. Because there's so much mystique, mystery around it. But if you look at, like she said, their funding, the amount of employees they have, and the amount of work they have to do, they're not doing everything.
Yeah, if they are, then must be some very hard work under very tiny budgets. Honestly, yeah, if they can do this, I want them to redo my house. It'd be like, yes, can you just build this patio for me in like 5 minutes for only $200? Get it done in like 5 seconds. It's like,
yeah,
under the watch of Mike Pompeo, former CIA director, to target Julian Assange while he was in the embassy of your country in London. And in the
wait,
I win. I brought up Assange. I told you they're going to bring him up.
I said in the title. It's not really wasn't really noble prediction.
Raining on my parade.
Yeah, the thunderstorm on your parade.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Assange, in Ecuador, there were warrants out. Ecuador refused, one of the places that people run to because Ecuador doesn't extradite criminals to other countries.
Yeah, also, apparently, though, the diplomats in the Ecuadorian embassy hated that decision because Assange was just so hard to deal with.
Yeah, his personality's a little rough.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would have kicked. If it wouldn't have gotten them fired, they probably would have kicked him out.
Oh, he just wound up on the street.
It's like, oh no, he must have partied too hard and just jumped out, ran out. We were all asleep. But why did it look like why do we have CCTV footage of someone pushing him out? It was a party game. We didn't do that.
He wanted to ride his skateboard.
Yeah. So we opened the door. went flying out. Must have locked it on accident.
In the course of my investigation, I received, through the Spanish court, documents that David Morales had created where he was surveilling you, spying on you, spying on your family, spying on even your producer at RT.
Well, because it's spying on RT people.
Yeah, the Russian government propaganda arm. Weird why you would want to keep track of those people.
Also, I don't know who he said was spying on them, but I mean, given his corruption scandal, I feel like that would be somewhat legitimate. You gotta see what he and his family are up to, see if there's a legitimate case. It's like they do have investigators who spy on people.
Yeah, and there are warrants issued in most countries. I'm not sure if it's the case here. But
like,
yeah, it was a corruption case, and they were trying to gather evidence on him.
It's almost as if an investigator's job is to investigate.
But they're just going to tie it to be like, oh, well, it's wrongful surveillance and this, but he was actually being accused of criminal action.
And they had a warrant, so it was like pretty legitimate.
What can you tell us about this campaign of violating your personal privacy? It's possibly criminal, and do you hold Mike Pompeo personally responsible for it?
Bueno, el espionaje que hicieron sobre mí es la misma empresa que espió a Julian Assange en la embajada. La culpa directa obviamente es David Morales, el responsable de la firma, pero normalmente tenía contacto con
Clearly the only base Morales left.
La CIA. Eso es lo que se está investigando. Yo no podría decir Pompeo conocía, pero es claro que el tipo trabajaba con la CIA y con los Estados Unidos. Y es claro que espió a mi familia, me espió a mí, espió a mis hijas. Y para quedar la mala fe de cierta prensa, ¿no? Ya se enteraron de las declaraciones de este señor en España y tú verás el titular. Correa autorizó monitorear a sus hijas, porque dicen que autorizado, realmente ni me acuerdo, pero no tendría nada de malo, que tengan GPS, pues localizador, en caso de que la secuestraran, cualquier cosa se detectaba por medio del teléfono. Pero otra cosa es poner trojanos ahí para escuchar las conversaciones.
Again, that's what they do, the investigators.
Well, so just looking into this, it was a private security firm called UNC or UC Global, and what he's bringing up is Assange brought a lawsuit against him for spying on him. And so, like, it's a security detail that exists in many Spanish-speaking countries that's hired by the government to do surveillance.
Y eso es lo que se descubrió en los teléfonos de mis hijas. Pero te tergiversa toda la prensa para desinformar a la gente, ¿no? Y para hacerles creer que uno es inconsistente, que está mintiendo. O sea, no busca la verdad la prensa ecuatoriana. Son actores políticos que buscan tan solo destruirnos. Pero el inmediato culpable es UC Global.
Oh yeah, this guy is definitely like way more like Donald Trump than he probably admit. Like,
yeah, but at least he has probably real hair.
Maybe. I don't know. Does look like he's coming over some spots.
David Morales, pero es una investigación que está en curso en España para ver para quién trabajaba esa gente. Lo que es incuestionable es que espiaron a Julian Assange, me espiaron a mí, espiaron a mi familia. ¿Cómo calza el caso de Julian Assange en la actual política?
Honestly, they probably wasn't too hard to spy on Julian Assange. They probably told the diplomats that when they were going to spy on Assange, they're probably like, "Yeah, you want to keep him? We'll give him to you. We'll pay you to take him. Please take him. Like, we just want to spy on him. Take him."
Ecuatoriana no calza, por eso lo entregaron estos sinvergüenzas, pero no podían entregarlo. O sea, lo de Julian Assange, no sé si todos están familiarizados con la Carta de Derechos Humanos de las Naciones Unidas. al derecho a asilo, ¿ya? Que es sagrado, es un derecho humano. Se ha roto ese derecho.
Hey,
Hey.
it's a pretty funny thing that's happening. Apparently, Blumenthal's interviewing the former president of Ecuador, who is essentially a pretty insane SOB for Alito.
Yeah, and he's currently in exile on corruption charges. I know that much.
Yeah.
But let's hear it.
Yeah, he's anti-American, so you know.
Oh, yeah, I knew that much too.
Derecho humano. Dice derecho a
Yeah, I think he's talking about how like Assange was in his embassy in the UK, and basically, I don't know if you heard this story, but apparently Assange was so like hard to deal with that the Ecuadorian diplomats, some of them actually wanted to throw him out.
Wow. Oh, much to the chagrin of the likes of Blumenthal.
Yeah, like I just it's like they were talking about how like I guess some guy was like spying on Snowden and him at the same time somehow, and getting very conspiratorial. And my thought is just maybe the diplomats let him spy on them. Him is like, sure, I mean, you can take him.
Yeah, you can take this guy if we want.
Yeah, you want him? We didn't see anything.
Yeah.
The fiesta. We're all sleeping.
We don't give a shit about this guy.
Yeah, you know those people definitely voted for asshole.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
We are not putting any more of these fuckers in our embassy.
Yeah, enough is enough of these people.
This is an embassy. This is a clown show he's running.
Oh yeah.
I never thought I'd miss Syria.
Oh,
Eso no puede ser por delitos comunes. ¿Acaso el de Julian Assange es un delito? Si es que es delito común. El asilo no puede ser para acciones que atenten contra los derechos humanos.
Anyway, Assange's whole thing about it's a very complicated story because he did technically violate people's private data, which is a crime.
Yeah, not only that, even worse, he might have compromised some of our agents and assets worldwide. That's the more serious thing, and that's probably more why he deserves to get locked up.
Yeah, it's like tension doesn't really matter as what get considered what you did, especially since you only revealed corruption for one side.
Yeah, definitely.
Like if it's like his thing, if Assange was like an honest anti-corruption guy and actually did release this information on every side, then I guess maybe you would have a case to be made for a pardon. But clearly, this was politically motivated.
Oh, absolutely, it was. So yeah, he deserves what he's getting.
Decir la verdad es atentar contra los derechos humanos. Entonces el caso de Julian Assange es paradigmático, es muy grave lo que está pasando, ¿no? Si respetó la institución de asilo, Ecuador, y respetó su propia constitución, el artículo 41 de la constitución prohíbe explícitamente, no hay cómo perderse,
except he wasn't a refugee, he was a dissident. Oh, what do you call him? But
an asylum seeker?
Yeah, like asylum seekers, I guess I think there's a legal distinction.
Yeah, no, for somebody for purely political reasons.
Yeah, like refugees typically escape political persecution or religious or ethical.
Yeah, fugitive. This guy was a fugitive from justice who broke some laws.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it wasn't like laws it's not like Taliban laws where it's like, oh, this guy broke the law because he sent his daughter to school. We're actually talking about serious laws that don't violate the UN's human rights.
Oh yeah, no, like he legit broke serious laws in our country and his own.
Yeah, any country would have arrested him.
Oh yeah, so let's keep watching.
Físicamente entregar a un refugiado. Lo hizo Moreno. Por primera vez en historia, un país, un gobierno soberano, permite a una Fuerza Armada entrar a su embajada. Es horroroso lo que ha pasado.
Well, technically, that's not true. The Iranians allowed an armed force to enter their embassy during the whole hostage crisis, but
Yeah, it is absolutely. That was a bit more controversial, so to speak.
yeah. Also, I mean, again, those diplomats must have been like, guys, he's in there. Take him. Take him
Yeah.
out.
No, this was legal. A state gave legal permission for police to enter the embassy.
Yeah, it's like I think that seems a little common. More common.
Yeah, it's not an armed storming like with the Iranian embassy.
Yeah, especially since those diplomats probably been waiting for that day for years.
It's like, thank God we got this guy out of our hair.
Yeah. There was a big party that night.
Finally, they all resolved to vote for Lasso in the next election.
Yeah, that's never again.
Never again will we have to put up with dipshits like this guy forcing themselves upon us.
¿No? Pero como es Moreno, servir a los Estados Unidos, la prensa lo oculta y no sucede absolutamente nada. Pero ya con respecto a Julian Assange, estamos locos. Esto es un retroceso civilizatorio. El que denuncia los crímenes se va preso.
Yeah, it was also a setback for all that data in the Ecuadorian embassy, Assange.
Yeah.
So, again, those diplomats were very angry with Corona for that.
Oh man.
Honestly, I feel like the diplomats hired to spy on Corella. Oi, you send me this guy. I'm gonna destroy your entire career for this.
Sweet, sweet revenge at last.
Again, he didn't really denounce the crimes. He violated U.S. law in order to get top secret information so he could release a partisan thing.
Yeah, hack job. Yeah.
Hack job. Like,
Si los criminales son los que lo persiguen, estamos locos. Además, nuevamente la hipocresía y la doble moral. Ah, es que el delito es publicar, difundir.
but yeah, that would get you arrested any country.
Yeah, no, they just keep leaving that out every time.
Yeah, like what country doesn't arrest you for giving out confidential information?
Yeah, no, and like people like Max here would wholeheartedly defend their beloved quote unquote anti-imperialist states for doing that against political dissidents.
Like maybe the only one that probably doesn't arrest you for spreading confidential information, I guess Somalia doesn't, but
like they don't have too functional a government anyway. It's
yeah, it's like they don't have confidential secrets in that most transparent government in the world. You can literally see into the Capitol building.
Yeah. And not because they designed it that way either.
Información confidencial, yo soy jefe de Estado, creo que debe haber información confidencial, pero tampoco para ocultar crímenes de guerra. Pero por último, ¿quién publica la información? La suministra Julian Assange, pero la publica New York Times, la publica El País, la publica, medios alemanes.
I think with that is that they have some sort of legal first, like I know in the US they have
and Assange is not a journalist.
Yeah. Like
would be the other argument.
Yeah, like the New York Times has like First Amendment. Since it was already released anyway, so it's like they were literally
they weren't doing the hacking.
Yeah.
They were just reporting the information.
¿No?
Also, again, this guy tries to complains about how America is being a censorship. He is also complaining how the New York Times isn't getting arrested for just reporting on a hack job.
Oh yeah.
So,
Entonces, por qué no se juicia?
yep, this guy's definitely a politician.
Yeah.
Esos médicos.
It's just like sort of it's their job to do exactly that. It's not this man's job to go around and dig for classified shit.
Todo en función del poder, ¿no? Se van contra el más débil, en este caso.
You were just complaining about them not going after journalists.
Yes, also you can get on your high horse when people like me do that in our authoritarian countries.
Also, press freedom under this guy was pretty limited.
Oh,
Yeah,
like
just the state-run media press is the only one he likes.
yeah, so many other caudillos.
El periodista. Pero realmente un caso de locura. O sea, el que dice la verdad, el que denuncia crímenes de guerra, es el que enfrenta 175 años de prisión, perseguido precisamente por los criminales a quienes denunció.
And all of this was made.
Well, it's not like they'll go into court and it's just like, yes, you have denounced war crimes, 175 years. No, it's yes, you have endangered lives and have spilled classified information and has left a very tarnished and have also done caused extreme divisions for a hack job. 175 years, probably.
Yeah, that is really serious stuff that I don't think these people appreciate. This wasn't just some investigative reporter digging up dirt on someone powerful. This endangers our national security.
Made possible by President Lenin.
Like, yeah, if all he did was talk about, oh yes, here's what he did with a strippo 2 weeks ago, it's like, yeah, that's not really classified information.
Yeah,
that would be
not putting anyone in danger.
maybe the strippo, but even then,
it's not quite the same level of seriousness as discharging lists of sources and assets, and which is really not
Moreno,
good.
Your successor, who at one point was by your side, if there had not been a Lenin Moreno administration, there never would have been Julian Assange being arrested at the embassy.
If Lasso had won that election, he would have handed him over with the snap of a fingers.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. If Correa somehow remained in powerful ever, there would eventually be the Ecuadorian embassies kills Julian Assange incident.
Yeah. It's not even official. It's just some enraged embassy staffer. I've fucking had it with this guy.
Yes. Well, no, he fell out the window. I didn't push him.
He also closed the window behind him, it's perfectly normal.
This violation of sovereignty of the Ecuadorian embassy in London. None of
I think Julian Assange violated.
And again, it wasn't a violation of sovereignty. They explicitly gave them permission to enter.
Yeah. Hell, I'm pretty sure the diplomats had a better idea. How about this? No, I think what the diplomat said to like Corella when he first said that Julian Assange is coming here, they probably the first note they probably sent was, shouldn't you stick him in a brown paper bag and light him on fire first? It's like,
this would have taken place. So I always wondered, before he became this kind of Trojan horse, did you ever wonder when you were working with him, if he would go in this direction? Did you ever see any red flags?
He's a socialist. He always sees red flags.
Ha ha.
It was a bad joke, but
yeah, it do be.
Yeah, when you're a socialist, there are all sorts of red flags.
Oh, yeah.
En absoluto. Y tú puedes revisar incluso la campaña 2017.
Well, that's an egomania. That's egomania right there.
Yeah.
How about, yeah, you call him a Trojan horse. You're the one on the high horse, buddy.
Yeah.
Donde me llamaba el mejor presidente de la historia, el mejor presidente del mundo, el mejor ecuatoriano de todos los tiempos, que nuestro gobierno ha sido una leyenda.
Yeah, okay, he was good when he was like making your Candace presidency to be like, I don't know, the best thing since sliced bread. But
Yeah, he was good as long as he was praising me, is what he's saying.
yeah, except the thing with him is that he acts like he's the best thing since sliced bread, but realistically, sliced bread probably would have made a better president than him.
Yeah. Really. I agree.
¿No? Puedes ver cómo se acercaba a Cuba, a Chávez, los condecoraba y todo eso. El tipo es un psicópata. El tipo es un
Which I probably realized, oh wait, those aren't good nations to work with. You know, people who could probably make more money working with America.
Yeah, and like housing this asshole guy in our embassy probably isn't a smart idea.
Yeah. You probably saw the angry letters from the diplomats. It's just like,
Get this guy out of here.
it's like. Also, again, yeah, it's like they're blaming people for not wanting to submit to ALBA, essentially, because
Oh man.
it's like, yeah, sometimes, because if you think about it, it's better for their people to work with America. It's in their national interest to work with America because they realistically can't just fight America. So
Yeah, no, it's like no need for needless enmity and fist shaking just to appeal to a certain nationalist electorate. You can get a lot more by being America's friend.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, that is what they do with China too. I mean, it does make sense to a certain degree with them, even though China's not really the best friend in the world,
Yeah.
especially if you're one of their neighbors.
Definitely isn't.
psicópata porque no puede haber alguien que pueda mentir tan descaradamente. ¿No? El tipo nunca estuvo con nosotros.
Again, this is gift. I don't know why. This guy seems
So
to
such
remind.
an egomaniac. This guy's
I don't
only good when he says nice things about me.
I don't know why. This guy seems very familiar. I've seen this guy. I've seen this attitude before from like some other leader. I can't put my finger on it. Thinking. I've heard the name. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's like, I don't know. Like, I think it was like a leader of like somewhere in North America. I don't know.
Hard to say.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Ahora, tampoco se justifica. La traición la puede justificar porque es un mediocre, porque es un corrupto. Tal vez le descubrieron los gringos antes que nosotros su cuenta secreta en Panamá.
Yeah, again, I guess that's one difference between him and that other guy I'm trying to think of, because that other guy was thinking of would just said he was mediocre and that'd be the end of it.
Yeah. He's a horrible person. Big liar. Big news. Never on my side.
Yeah, but like, who is that guy? I can't think of him.
One thing I can say, this other guy was likely a fist-shaking populist sort of dude who loved to rout up a crowd of people on a bunch of lies.
Yeah.
Que no se le han abierto y está toda su corrupción. Probablemente se sometió por ese chantaje. Pero ¿cómo explicas el odio patológico hacia nosotros? Porque incluso sus asesores le decían, no persigas a Correa, Correa tiene apoyo popular. ¿No? Eso no te da apoyo, ¿no? Eso te crea resistencia.
Some popular support you got there.
Yeah.
So don't worry, guys. It's the silent majority.
Yes, the silent majority, as always.
I can't. Trying to think. That reminds me of someone.
Oh man, it's like just It doesn't quite come to mind, but I sort of know who it is.
Yeah, I think it was like a leader of like some small country or something. Or like I don't know. Maybe it's a small country. I don't.
Yeah, like some third world country where the people invaded the legislature or something and beat up a bunch of people.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Pero
like
prefirió
that.
Yeah,
destruirse. Tiene 6% de apoyo popular.
yeah. Lasso won 53% of the vote.
Yeah, I wouldn't guess this guy has a much higher support right here.
La peor aceptación de toda América Latina en la historia del país. Prefirió destruir al país, pero tratar de destruirme a mí. A mí no me destruyó, pero sí ha hecho.
Oh yes, make Ecuador great again.
This guy, he's such a loser. No one likes him. Not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, buddy, do you happen to go on Twitter a lot by any chance?
I think he does, honestly. His account's just all in Spanish.
Pedazos al país, ha dañado a mucha gente buena, a muchas familias, y destruyó su propio gobierno, que es considerado el peor gobierno de la historia.
Yeah, frankly, he's not a nice person. Frankly.
Frankly, not a nice person. Bigly not nice. Not at all.
While you were president of Ecuador, you dealt with the Obama administration on a very regular basis. And that means that you also dealt with Joe Biden, who is now the president-elect. Do you think...
Oh, yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, Obama. I think that's the guy I was thinking of.
I don't know. It might be somebody connected, somebody who might have come before or after Obama.
Bush, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know.
A Biden administration promises anything different for Latin America from a Trump administration, and
I don't know. It wasn't that guy. I don't think it was that.
That's not the guy.
That's not the guy.
Specifically for the socialist or left-wing governments.
I hope he's not good. I hope he's not good.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't appease them.
Yeah.
Creo que Obama y Biden son diferentes a Trump. Trump es un amoral. Trump es un tipo demasiado elemental, cree que un país es otra empresa.
You see that the guy we're mentioning isn't Trump. He has a simple mind.
Yes, this guy clearly he has nothing in common with this guy who's talking right now. Is very clearly has a complex and intelligent mind.
Yes, Trump is simple-minded. This guy is very complex-minded. That's why they're not the same. But this guy also reminds me of a U.S. president. I just can't put my finger on it.
Oh, why can't we remember this guy? It should be so obvious.
Yeah. It's almost as if we're pretending not to, we're just pretending not to know who he is.
Oh, for shits and giggles.
Impuestos, es amoral. Entonces es muy difícil consensuar con gente así, hablar con gente así sin principios. Pero no solo eso, los mensajes que mandaba.
I feel like he's about to go on a seriously, you could have just said Liz Cheney and
yeah, could have just said Mitt Romney or something.
Xenofobia, la discriminación y tantas otras cosas, ¿no? Los mensajes de violencia, que realmente es un peligro mundial. Biden es otra cosa. Lamentablemente, yo te podría decir, Obama es una buena persona, es un tipo muy simpático, sin duda inteligente. Biden lo mismo, yo lo admiro, ha tenido una vida muy dura, Biden, pero están inmersos en un sistema. Tú conversas con las élites, tal vez con las élites venezolanas, y van a ser las personas más amables, solidarias con los amigos, pero al final no tienen asco en mandar a matar a los que consideran diferentes, ¿no? Tienes ejemplos históricos, tú eres estadounidense.
I'm trying to understand. I feel like I am watching Trump because he just went on a big tangent. I don't even know what he just said.
First he's talking about Biden, then he's talking about Venezuelan elites, then Thomas Jefferson.
There's the famous elite of Venezuela, Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
He's going to free the people of Venezuela from King George III.
Yeah. Oh man.
Fíjense, ¿no? Thomas Jefferson, autor de uno de los documentos más bellos de la historia de la humanidad, o la Declaración de Independencia, que en su segundo párrafo dice algo como: nosotros sostenemos estas verdades por ser evidentes en sí mismas, que todo hombre nace libre, con derecho a la felicidad. Y él mismo era propietario de esclavos. O sea, eso ya va más allá de la persona, de su bondad o maldad. Creen que es así. Es el excepcionalismo de los estadounidenses y la gente.
I don't think. Well, he takes that whole all men are created equal way too much to heart, though.
Yeah.
That's the problem with socialists in general. It's like you take that one bit of the Declaration of Independence and you just send that to like 1,000.
Yeah, it's like not just equal under the law, but equal every which way, which inevitably in their system becomes equally poor, well, equally poor except for the party elites. They live just fine.
They're equal. It's just some are more equal than others.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Élite latinoamericana, ¿no? Ellos se creen, o sea, cuando hablaba Thomas Jefferson de la libertad y el derecho a la felicidad de las personas, sencillamente era solo para ellos, no consideraba a los negros personas. Y no era por malo, no, porque no se le ocurría, así creció, así nació, así lo educaron más que así nació. Entonces,
oh yes, Thomas Jefferson didn't have the big brain like Korea. That's what I'm gonna call him Korea now. I'm intentionally making his name wrong. Yeah, so Mr. Korea Hills apparently arrested people who made people do community service for flipping him off. So
yes, very big brain move there.
yes, he's not smart big. Thomas Jefferson wasn't smart big brain boy like me. I'm very big brain. I'm the best brain ever.
Yes, it's like Idi Amin. I have a very good brain.
Mismo con todo respeto con los gobernantes norteamericanos, ¿no? Pueden ser las mejores personas, pero mira cuánta gente mandó a bombardear Obama, cuántas guerras creó.
He bombed Gaddafi and Assad. Were those good people?
Yeah, I'd say they deserve to be bombed. But, actually, somebody might think there's, very fine people on both sides,
Yeah. No. You see, this guy's an Alba. Still, here's an observer member with a seat on Alba. Somehow. For some reason.
Yes, the Alliance of Bolivarian Nations of the Americas has too many countries in the old world on its advisory board, I gotta say.
I guess Simon Bolivar was just kind of unknown interest in Levant.
Yeah, who knew? Él empezó las sanciones contra Venezuela. Mira cuánto costo han generado esta sanción. Él puede ser una gran persona, pero no entiende y cree que el mundo empieza y termina en Estados Unidos. Entonces, yo creo que la política exterior norteamericana, sobre todo hacia América.
Okay, so apparently, no, I'm just gonna say this: the United States does have everything to do with us, because think about it, what are the initials to the U.S.? Us, U.S., us.
Yeah.
I'm playing 60 chess with you, Korea.
Wow, I don't know if he has any retorts to that.
Yeah.
Latina no tendrá cambios fundamentales, pero sí se cortarán ciertos extremos, fruto de, como te decía, de lo elemental que era Trump, de lo cavernícola que era Trump, de lo amoral que era Trump, como por ejemplo bloquear con barcos de guerra las costas venezolanas, ¿no? Eso no.
Outdated predictions.
Yeah. I guess. And there's so much projection on this guy's behalf. It's downright hilarious.
No creo que continúe Biden.
I've always wondered, given what's happening in Ecuador, just how far the country has fallen into U.S. hands, how much its sovereignty has been violated. If you ever
Yeah, the standards of living are going to go through the roof.
Oh, what a horrible place it'll be where, you know, they just trade freely with America and grow their economy and get our stuff. Awful, I tell you, awful.
Yeah, their economy is going to go through the roof. Meanwhile, there's still a hole in the roof from Venezuela.
Yeah. And in the floor. And the pipes are busted.
Yeah.
regretted leaving office and going to Europe and wished you had run for another term?
Ay, yo decidí hacer eso. Yo anuncié en el 2014 que el 2017 no me iba a presentar como candidato.
To the relief of so many Ecuadorians.
Yes, and it's like Max's greatest criticism of this man is, why didn't you become a dictator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Porque mi familia es binacional. Varios motivos, ¿no? Si alguien lo puede continuar haciendo en buena hora, pero un motivo.
Yes, you should. Yeah, your wife is Belgium. You should go to Belgium. You should stay in Belgium. You should never.
Yeah.
You should stay in
Please do.
Just never leave Belgium.
Yes, it's a nice country. It's,
Yeah.
well, it's subservient to Western imperialism in Max's view, but this guy gets on there just fine.
Yeah, and don't worry. I mean, you'll figure out what pisses everyone off in Wallonia soon enough.
Yeah, and you'll get yourself
No,
deported somewhere else.
Yeah. No one knows what actually makes Wallonians angry. So, buddy, we're gonna be.
We're trusting you here to figure that out.
Yeah. Except he's probably gonna make them angry too, and then he has to, like, I don't know, move to like a nation that would accept him after that.
Yeah.
What nation would accept him? I don't know.
Venezuela.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know. North Korea, they're always going to accept you.
Yeah, no, that's always a failsafe for people like him.
Lo fundamental, sinceramente, es que mi familia es binacional, mi esposa es belga, y llevamos 25 años viviendo en Estados Unidos. Como te decía, interrumpí un poquito la entrevista porque hoy día es un año que falleció mi suegro. Felizmente regresamos al 2017. En 15 meses, 18 meses falleció mi suegro y mi suegra. ¿Ya? Mi suegra falleció en septiembre del 2018, mi suegro en diciembre del 2019. Y nosotros regresamos a vivir a Bélgica en julio del 2017. Entonces era justo ir a vivir un tiempo en Bélgica. Mi esposa es de Bélgica. Mis dos hijas estaban estudiando allá. Estaba cansado.
Well, just say you didn't go because you wanted to move to Belgium.
Yeah, no, it's like this guy spent this self-declared patriot spent 25 years in the U.S. and a whole bunch of time in Belgium.
He spent 25 years explaining what he did in America.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy doesn't seem to have lived in Ecuador all that much other than when he was president.
Yeah.
Yo no es que me aferro al poder. Por supuesto, sé la responsabilidad que tengo. Jamás pensé que iba a suceder.
Also, wait a second. If he lived in America for 25 years, you think he'd know at least a little bit English, and so you could probably do this interview in English, and so they won't have to use the translator, but...
Well, fair enough. He probably wants a sort of gesture of defiance against the Anglo-cultural order.
The Anglo box.
Yes, the Anglo box. He lives outside it.
Yeah, maybe who would have thought he's a fan of Haas?
Yeah, no. Haas, I'm sure, is a fan of this guy.
Yeah. Oh no. He uses too many big words. He doesn't speak fast though.
Doesn't speak fast, doesn't use enough, doesn't use his thesaurus enough.
Yeah. Doesn't like use a blender in the middle of a debate.
And doesn't deep throat the mic and spit into it.
Doesn't call everyone a cocksucker.
Every 3 seconds.
He's not a sophisticated man like Haas.
Yeah.
Y si lo hubiera sabido, hubiera continuado. No por estar aferrado al poder, sino por cumplir una responsabilidad. Pero yo desde 3 años antes anuncié que no me iba a presentar en el 2017 y que iba a residir en Bélgica. De hecho, quería retirarme de la política.
Of course, he went to Belgium. He's not going to live in a nation that's suffering the aftermath of his presidency.
Yeah, it's like, see you guys.
That's like probably the weirdest. That's probably like one of the worst things you can do as a president who just left office is move to another
Yeah,
country.
just go live somewhere else. And I'm not going to live with the consequences of my actions. Sorry, not
Yeah,
sorry.
that's what it looks like. I mean, yeah, I mean, like that. Oh, that's probably not what his intentions was, but it just makes it look like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
Porque creo que se puede contribuir de otras áreas. Siempre estuve en la academia, quería volver a la academia. Yo soy un economista, un PhD con especialización en desarrollo.
proof that being a PhD means nothing.
Yeah. Yet more, as if we needed more proof.
El privilegio de dirigir un país en vías de desarrollo durante 10 años, creo que algo puedo aportar al análisis de desarrollo, quería escribir. Y ese era mi plan de vida, pero se dio la traición, empezó esta brutal persecución. Créeme, Max, yo me levanto todos los días para ver qué nuevo caso me han puesto, qué nueva acusación. La última fue la semana pasada, que le quité el subsidio al día. Eso es criminal.
Yeah, this guy has been involved in like a billion corruption scandals, complaining about him being corrupt.
Yes, and according to him, they're all fake news and hit jobs. God damn, if only we could remember the guy who reminds us of him.
Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
I probably remember it after the stream.
Yeah, we'll have to post it on Twitter.
Eso se llama gobernar.
But I remember who it's Jair Bolsonaro. That's who I was thinking of.
Whoa, just like him. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah.
Now we know.
President of some third world country in the Americas who talks a lot like this. There we go.
Yeah. I mean, like, like, people in the comments, who did you think we were talking about?
I don't know, like Justin Trudeau or something?
I don't know, I don't know any American politician like that whatsoever.
I don't know. Maybe Amy Klobuchar or something.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
De dirigir una red de sobornos con influjo psíquico, de asesinos, ¿no? De manejar mal los aviones, o sea, como si el presidente es el piloto, o sea, es terrible. En todo caso, no me permitieron retirarme, he tenido que volver y ya es cuestión de impedir la destrucción total.
Oh, believe me, your homeland is about to get a lot better.
Yeah. No thanks to you, buddy. No thanks to you.
Yeah, when Lazo takes charge of foreign investments are just going to skyrocket. You people will be swimming in money.
Money which for some reason you hadn't gained access to these past 14 years.
No, he gained access to a lot of it.
Yes, what are we talking about?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this guy's vice president got embezzled in like a multi-million-dollar corruption scheme. He made lots of money.
It was very, very good for him.
Yeah.
Total de la patria e impedir la persecución de nuestros compañeros, recuperar el futuro, y hemos tenido que decir presente, pero no era mi proyecto de vida.
All right, so
that's it. And I think, unfortunately, I got to walk my dog soon, so that's all I can do. But that was some good stuff there. And I'll think a little more about that politician who he reminds us of.
Yeah, anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next broadcast.